We're joined once again this morning by one of our political experts, Associate Dean at Cooley Law School, Tracey Brame. Tracey, let's first start with the Harris campaign on this time around. There was a recent New York Times poll that kind of felt that voters needed to get to know Harris more as a candidate. So this time around in this debate, do you think she succeeded in selling her platforms there to let people know her a little bit more as a candidate there?
I think so, and I think that was probably one of her main goals in this debate, right, to kind of close that gap regarding people who didn't feel like they knew her. She got a chance to talk a little bit about her background and her upbringing, and she had the opportunity to explain her positions, which she did so very well at times. Talked about reproductive rights. She eloquently, cast that in terms of women's autonomy. She worked in the fact that she's a gun owner, right? She and her vice presidential running mate. She was, maybe less strong when she was talking about trying to explain her evolving positions, how they've evolved over time. But President Trump didn't really press her on that, right? He kind of allowed her a pass on that one. So in general, she looked poised, she looked presidential, right? She looked confident. I think, gave the impression that she could do the job, right? Which was one of her goals in this debate.
And meanwhile, on Donald Trump's side, he often tried to tie Harris to Joe Biden's record, most notably on the economy and on the border. Do you feel that that was an effective strategy?
In the end, it wasn't. So, and it was an understandable strategy. She is President Biden's vice president, after all. But she did a very good job of staking her own claim regarding her issues, right, without distancing herself too much from her president. So again, she turned to President Trump at some point and said, "You are actually running against me this time. I am not Joe Biden. I am not Donald Trump. My name is Kamala Harris." And again, so she did a good job. And she drew the former president into this back and forth, where again, he at times seemed that he was shadow boxing against Joe Biden instead of taking her head on with respect to the issues.
All right, one final question for you. There is a wide debate right now whether there will be another debate between the two before the election gets underway. Do you think either candidate at this point would benefit from another debate after this one?
So in my mind, hands down, Kamala Harris would benefit most from another debate versus Donald Trump. Again, she goaded him into doing this on her terms. He defaulted to kind of anger and defensiveness, which again was not surprising, but that doesn't help him. It may not hurt him with his base, right? It may, but it certainly doesn't help him attract new people. So Vice President Harris did a good job of reminding the country about former President Trump's perceived flaws and asking them the question, right, is this do you really want to return to this? And as many opportunities as she gets to show people that side of him, right, and he's willing to show it apparently, as she showed last night, that's better for her and not so much for him.
Well, so important to get this analysis after such a big night on the political stage. Tracey Brame, Associate Dean at Cooley Law School, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me
this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well,